Hello everyone and welcome back to the GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. Maybe one day I'll be able to come to this thing and be like, this is the low budget show. It's still low, but we have a budget. People are paying us to do this. If you have a sponsor or if you want something advertised on the show, please let me know. I'll probably advertise something if you pay me to do it. So keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. Maybe some of the streaming services that I'll be talking about today would like me to advertise, because that's right, in this episode of the GeekWave, we are looking back at the best streaming service. Now, that is a broad statement, because what is best and what can be defined is always different to somebody and other people, but I basically wanted to do this video for a while. What it is me going through some of the more notable streaming services, obviously not every single one of them, and giving my thoughts and feelings on it. I don't want to get into like the business side of things because I'm sure there's some that got more money coming to them than others. There's certain numbers that people have, but basically there's a couple of things that prompted me to want to do this before we get into our news. The first one was, I do believe that CBS All Access will be coming Paramount Plus very soon, which made me go, oh, it's the time to talk about it. And also Star Plus will be coming to Disney Plus. A lot of pluses. So I figured, let's do it. Let's talk about this topic. It's one I always enjoy talking about in my real life, just with people, because it's something I'm very interested in, just because I have been very vocal, and we'll get into this more when we get into the actual series and like talk about this stuff. But I've been very vocal in saying that the future is streaming. I think it's going to wipe out very soon, very quickly. It's going to wipe out cable and network television. We'll still get things like pay-per-view and, like your primetime shows, but all of the stuff you're going to want to watch will be on streaming, movies and television. All of it will be on streaming, and I think it's going to destroy theaters. That's a whole other video we will probably get into closer to the release of an actual big movie coming to theaters, but I wholeheartedly believe that. So before we get into our topics, I, of course, like to run through some of the news this week. And there's a lot of interesting pieces. I narrowed it down to a few I think are worth talking about, and there's someone just like, I don't care. So the first piece of news here that excites me is good old George Clooney. Emphasis on the old. The guy, George Clooney, wants to make Buck Rogers. So there's so much about this I'm like, makes sense. He likes his old-timey science fiction for some reason. George Clooney did Tomorrowland. That was some weird retro science fiction, and I'm a huge fan of retro science fiction. It's one of my favorite things. I'm actually writing a story about it. But that idea, I'm just like, sure. Are you going to star as Buck Rogers or just produce it? I don't know. I like the idea that you're going to be attached to it, because if there's one person who can actually get that right, I feel like it's going to be Clooney. Just to be like, yeah, I know this world. I know this feeling. I like this stuff. What a weirdo. I love it, though. Buck Rogers is cool. The 25th century, that's a fun place to do stuff. So if it has that classic vintage feel, I'll be all for it. That sounds like a great idea. Very cool. I think there was like some legal negotiations between, was it Legendary and another place, between who owns the rights to this. But I guess it's in the public domain now, kind of. So that's kind of fun. Didn't The Great Gatsby just come to the public domain too? Let's all do one of those. Let's have fun with those two. But that's fun. I like George Clooney. He's done a lot of bad stuff recently. I like Buck Rogers. He deserves a chance to come back to the spotlight. It'd be cool if we did a generational thing and called it Beck Rogers, where it's like maybe Buck's daughter or niece or something. That could be really fun. But I'm happy about this. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could be presented with a Buck Rogers. With today's technology, today's kids can see something retro and cool. Y'all love Fallout so much. Why don't you see where Fallout gets its inspiration for like ray guns and stuff? This is it. The atomic age is coming back, guys. I love it a lot. It's very cool. And here's some other news I'm very intrigued by, and I like this idea a lot. So HBO Max, which we'll talk about in a bit here, is currently in very early development stages of a Harry Potter series. Now, there's no confirmation on if this is going to be a direct adaptation of the books, a direct sequel to the movies. But if you want my honest opinion, and not a lot of people will agree with me on this opinion, I say reboot the books. First off, you can get more development and more interesting stuff happening in today's technology, and with the idea of streaming and television, you can expand a lot more lore. There's a whole generation, like from 2005 onwards, who haven't probably seen some of those movies fully, or if they have, they're like, oh, these are kind of campy and kitschy. You want to make this serious? Go ahead and do it on a streaming service. If Umbrella Academy has taught us anything, it's that kids like stuff in schools. I don't. I actually have never been a fan of Harry Potter. I didn't like any of the movies. I didn't read any of the books except the last one. I only got like 100 pages in. And I haven't liked Fantastic Beasts. The one thing I liked about Fantastic Beasts was, why aren't these animals in the suitcase? Let's put them back in the suitcase. That's what I liked about it. Everything else, I'm just like, I don't care about gay wizard Hitler, or why Ezra Miller's here, or why Dumbledore suddenly went from wearing a suit to old wizard robes. None of that matters to me. What matters to me is a new generation falling in love with Harry Potter without the influence of J.K. Rowling, so maybe let's just go touch something else and get our minds off of J.K. Rowling being a terrible person, and Harry Potter can grow again in a different light. I mean, you can recast. I don't think it's sacred that you could do anything like that. You just know that someone like Tom Felton or Rupert Grint would probably come back for a cameo, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe we'll get one of them to be Hagrid or something. I'm on board for this. I'm okay with like rebooting stuff. I don't think anything is sacred. It's either everything's sacred or nothing's sacred. Harry Potter is not sacred. So just reboot it. I don't give a shit. So we have a couple more pieces here that I'm very excited to talk about. So we're going to end on the Marvel stuff. But before that, this was kind of an interesting piece that popped up on my feed recently. So the director of Nomadland and the upcoming Eternals movie at Marvel Studios, Chloe Zhao, who is amazing. I absolutely adore what she's done so far. I'm very excited for her Eternals, even though I'm not an Eternals fan. I'm super excited to see what she does with that. But she will be developing a remake of Dracula. You got me sold on that already. That's some weird kitschy stuff I like, but the supposed thing is this is going to be a futuristic sci-fi western, which I don't really think about when I hear the word Dracula, but I'm kind of interested in this. It could be a really fun, different feeling story for the character of Dracula, or it could be a western that they're throwing Dracula into, which I could also see being the case if they have a script that somebody wrote. They're like, we have to produce this or we lose the rights to Dracula. So they're like, well, we have this script about a futuristic science fiction thing. What if we made the opposing character or the protagonist Dracula or Mina Harker or Van Helsing? I could see that. I could see this kind of being like Van Helsing in the West hunting vampires. I could see it being that, but maybe Dracula 3000. That'd be pretty cool, hey? I like that. Stuff is fun. Comic books are weird. This isn't a comic book, though. I don't know why I said that. I was just looking at our next thing, and that is the Wakanda series that will be in the works at Disney+. And this is part of like a whole huge overall deal that Ryan Cooglar is going to be having with Disney Plus, where he's signed like a 5-year contract to develop new stuff. Wakanda will just be one of those for an actual series, but I like that a lot. I could see this leading into him doing other kinds of pictures and films and animated stuff at the actual studio. That's very exciting. I'm very happy for Ryan Cooglar on this, actually. I think it's a good deal for him to get, just because Disney's in this place where they're going to be like, yeah, we'll take some content. You got something to reboot? Reboot it. I'm trying to think, what is the old property that could be rebooted by Ryan Cooglar? Because Mighty Ducks just came back. Is there anything else that Ryan Cooglar might touch that could be rebooted? I don't know. Maybe I was going to say Tomorrowland, but who wants another Tomorrowland, honestly? I don't know. It's all interesting. That's cool. A Wakanda series, that's an interesting world to explore. Not personally my taste, but I don't think it's aimed for me, and that's not a bad thing. I just hope it satisfies the people that want that, and if it doesn't satisfy you, who cares? You're not going to lose sleep over it. It's just a thing. That's great, though. Good job for Ryan Cooglar. Congratulations to his production company. That's a good get. Good job, guys. I'm very excited to see what you're going to produce with the House of Mouse. Very fun. And one final piece of news to end off. We had the Super Bowl this weekend, which was a very interesting one. If you are a fan of the Super Bowl, you know how disappointing it was just to watch as a game because like the Chiefs just got their asses kicked, and that was embarrassing. But there was a few trailers that dropped, things for like old, and I think Fast 9 had a trailer. But Falcon and Winter Soldier had a trailer come out. They had a 30-second spot at the Super Bowl itself, and then they released an actual full trailer online. I'm going to tell you guys right now, the trailer didn't sell me on this. I'll tell you why right now. Okay, so the thing is, I am somebody who is in the verbal minority that I don't need to see a Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson team up. Their chemistry is funny. It works well as sidekicks, but I don't think those two are interesting enough to hold their own. The thing I'm excited about for this series is literally everything else. Johnny Walker, U.S. Agent, Sharon Carter, the Flag Smashers, Baron Zemo looked incredible, by the way. That was pretty cool. Everything else about this production, everything else about this story, the potential race issues of a black Captain America and how the government kind of owns the name, that all excites me more than the actual idea that a Falcon and Winter Soldier thing is going to happen. I don't care about that in the slightest. So the trailer, there were some fun moments. I know some people are going to like, oh, their chemistry, they're so weird. They're in like therapy. They're having a staring contest. Those beats don't make me interested. What does make me interested is just like this weird entity that's becoming Zemo of like, we don't need superheroes. I'm going to finish my job. That stuff looks cool. They're really hiding John Walker, which makes me think he's going to be dope. I can't wait to see that. And that's coming out very soon. Like, it's less than a month away. That's very exciting, man. I can't wait to see what that's going to look like. It's a good trailer, if that's what you're interested in. But to me, it just made me go, yeah, I can watch this. It's not going to be my cup of tea, I can tell. Maybe it's just because Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, their characters just haven't interested me the way it has other people. So we'll see, I guess. I'm still going to watch and enjoy it probably, but that's just what I needed to say to get off my chest. So that's all the news we have. Of course, there were other things that dropped this week, but they're not worth talking about. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to be jumping into the world of streaming, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts and opinions on all of these streaming services, and quintessentially say which one's the best, ? Probably not, but you never know what might happen. So, as I said at the top of the show, I wholeheartedly believe, I fundamentally think the future is streaming. You know, there is an entire generation of kids, of young people, who have just grown up on streaming services. And that, to me, is amazing to think about. Because I'm at this age, it's a weird age for me to be, because I remembered, like, old, like, I'm trying to think of, like, dial-up. I know dial-up existed. I've used landlines. I've had corded phones. I was right in the mix of technology progressing to becoming what it is today. So I know how to use every piece of like modern internet, modern cellular devices, all that stuff. But there's an entire generation of kids who have grown up without knowing, waiting a Thursday night to watch your latest CBS comedy. That's amazing to me. That to me just goes like, wow, these people are really spoiled and very lucky we live in this age of television. So this topic, it's one I've always wanted to talk about because I am a huge fan of streaming services. I love the idea of the initial concept. There are some streaming services I like more than others. I will tell you that right now. There's a few I'm just like, I don't care for you. I don't need to know what you are. I don't need to know what you do. But there's also some I'm like, you are a clear indication of a brilliant idea. And I like that a lot. And I think the idea that we should start with is talking about Netflix. Now, Netflix is an interesting one for me just because there's a few things about it I think work and there's a lot about it I don't think works. First off, it's the number one streaming service, which is very obvious because it was the first. And when you are the first person to do a concept, you kind of initially are the number one concept and you're like the number one for a long time. But they were really ambitious and bold when they first kind of launched into this idea of what a streaming service was. They did a lot of things right, but I also think they did a lot of things wrong. First off, in terms of things they did right, you gave a lot of access to different types of shows that not a lot of people have seen or weren't able to acquire before, which I think is a very important thing. That is very cool to see. I'm glad. If there's one thing I can say I'm very happy with about streaming services, it's this idea that you can go back and watch other shows that you normally couldn't, or you can watch movies that normally you wouldn't have access to, which is kind of nice, especially if you were in like a small town that didn't have like a video rental store, or you didn't really know how to use the internet. You just set up your account. You are able to, pay a certain amount a month to do that. And I guess let's talk about that for a second too. I like the idea that it's a service you pay monthly for. I think that is important. My main concern is that all of these prices, if you paid for every service on this list I'm going to talk about, that adds up to a lot of dollars a month. And is it always worth it? I don't know. I think there's some that you could turn off and not look at. But I just think if you are going to decide between cable and streaming, I would say streaming, because unless you watch like live sports, is there really anything you're really watching on cable? That's the kind of thing to think about. I also want to throw in the caveat here that some of these streaming services I'm going to talk about are not available where I'm from. I live in Canada. We acquire some of these through other places. When we talk about those streaming services, I will talk about it then. Back to Netflix. Netflix is the first one. It's the most important one. It's the most prominent one. And that's the kind of thing I don't really enjoy about Netflix. So it is obviously the most subscribed. It's got the most money coming in. But because of that, I still have this thing that doesn't... Okay, I'm stuttering here just because I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. So the fact that it has the most subscribers and the most people interested in Netflix kind of upsets me, just because I think out of everything on this list, I'm looking at my list here, and I think in terms of the quality and quantity, Netflix is producing the worst product. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are not getting any new subscribers that much. Pretty much anybody who owns Netflix at this point has Netflix. So the idea is to get new subscribers into Netflix, you have to create new content, and that means opening up yourselves to a variety of different ideas and properties. Not all of them land. Not all of them are interesting. More often than not, a lot of them are pretty boring and basic. And that's something I just get blown away by. How the biggest streaming service ever just manages to never really catch its footing in terms of a long-lasting program. Now, there are exceptions, things like House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, BoJack Horseman. Those have lasted a very long time and have gotten pretty much their full run and their intended run. But there are so few things on Netflix that really just stick the landing and have that certain impact that you're expecting from it. And I think that's amazing. The other thing I want to say about this too, I'm going to encourage you, if you are going to buy one streaming service from this list, I encourage you not to use Netflix. Just because the content is fine, everyone's using it, but there's so many other programs that you can get different types of storytelling on those programs, and I think that's way more important than just being in the public zeitgeist like Netflix is. My thing of Netflix comes down to it's too big sometimes. And I've always been this guy where if something's fairly popular, I instantly feel like it loses its cultural relevance because suddenly it's just this implosion of things going there. It's kind of like how I lose interest in things like the Marvel Universe if suddenly everybody just becomes obsessed with it and is nitpicking everything. My thing with Netflix is there's a whole generation of people that only watch content on that streaming service. They are not getting any other content. They are just getting what comes to Netflix. And when you do that, you suddenly see that there's a certain push in a certain direction that goes to Netflix. I will say it, all their programs look the same. And you could say that about virtually everything on this show. Or on this on the service, everything Amazon looks the same, everything CBS looks the same. That's fine. When it comes to Netflix, there's so clearly an audience it's catering to that I don't really enjoy that, and I understand sometimes you have to make those choices and do things like that. And I'm not saying that's every program. I'm just saying when it comes down to it, there's less on Netflix I'm excited about, and there's less good quality. So I'm a guy who spends a lot of his time looking what stuff that's popular and in the zeitgeist. And one of the things I'm seeing a lot is these younger people talking about shows on Netflix that get canceled because after 2 or 1 or 3 seasons, suddenly the show gets canceled. Here's why that happens. I'm going to explain to you young people why your favorite show gets canceled after 2 seasons on Netflix. It's because you have no new money coming in to get it that way. They only have a certain amount of money that's coming in. It's your subscribers, and when you get no new subscribers coming in, you are not making any new money. That's why they have to do like this cost analysis thing. The amount of money we're putting into this project equal the amount of money we are getting back from this project. Now, they are a $1 billion company, so normally that's fine. But when you're dropping that much and the revenue or the views aren't coming in for that, you're not getting that much interest coming back. Now, that is sad to say, but that's just the nature of the beast. Netflix has always done that. It's always how they've been. But for some reason, they keep getting these big pushes from like these big directors and auteurs. Like, why did we have a Martin Scorsese film come here? That's weird to me. Michael Bay's got a huge thing going on there. Adam Sandler's got a huge thing going on there. Now, Zack Snyder is getting a huge thing going on at Netflix. It's weird to me that this is what we're seeing now. This is the trend that we're coming to, where all of these people are coming to Netflix to make their stuff, just because I think the bubble with Netflix is going to burst. First off, we've already seen it happening with the price increases happening very often with Netflix. The price keeps coming up because they need more money to come in. They're trying to cut back on people like having this idea of sharing an account, which is something I completely get. If you have like 10 people sharing one account, you're not making 10 times as much money. That's just the nature of the beast. We're talking about $1 billion companies. They're all going to be greedy. That's just part of it. But I just think the quality that Netflix puts out, the good doesn't always rise to the top, which is kind of sad to say. Now, I've watched a lot of Netflix. I don't want people to think I'm bagging on them or I hate them. I don't think they're good. They have their moments. They have their qualities that are very important and very pristine. And they kind of set up everything that's happening here. And it's kind of something I don't like, where it's like, oh man, HBO Max is just copying Netflix. They're not actually. They're doing something different. These are the only thing here that surprises me is that Netflix isn't independent. Everything else we are going to talk about is from an already established studio. So Netflix was its own thing. It started to ship you out discs to watch movies. Then they suddenly had a lot of money, so they made original programming. Now, here's the thing too. All these other streaming services are taking off their programming from Netflix and putting it on their own streaming service, which is completely in the right of those places. I think that's completely fine. If you want to do that, do that. That is completely in your right. And that's leaving Netflix with this hole, like we have to fill those things. But the other thing too with Netflix is they still haven't really done the weekly motto of release. Now, most of the other things on this show, aside from a few, they have done the weekly release. And what I want to say is, weekly release is important for your episodes. You can release a movie every Friday. That's what Netflix is looking to do. I encourage you to do that. But what I honestly think, and anybody can disagree or agree with me on this topic, if you are a television programmer, if you want to release your program, you want to keep people interested in it, you release your program weekly. Netflix has this really bad motto, and I think where I first really felt it was with the Daredevil and Iron Fist and all that, where you release the entire season, you have to binge it that weekend, and then you talk about it with your people that weekend, and you completely forget about it. That hurts television. I have been very adamant, in my opinion, on binging a television show. I don't think there's anything positive about binging television. It's harmful to the creators because you're just letting their creation wash over you. You're not thinking about it in grander terms. It is very bad for your eyesight just to watch everything at once, because you either have to do it for your review show like I've done, or you have to get it because you're going to talk about it with people in your life. You have to have that inclination to get it done, or you're going to miss out on the moment pretty much. It is harmful to television. Even in the regard that once it's done, it's over. It's out of your life. You're never going to talk about it again after that weekend. I don't know how many times I've watched a show on Netflix, watched it the weekend, went to work or went to school one day, and it's like, oh, did you see this? I'm like, yeah, I'm on episode 6. It's like, oh, don't talk about it. That sucks. That's a terrible thing. Whereas things like we'll see in places like HBO Max and Disney Plus and Peacock for some extent, and places like Prime Video, you do the weekly thing. It gets more people interested. And I think it holds their interest a lot longer, and you have a longer amount of people subscribe to your plays, because now they're not just subscribing it for the weekend to watch your show, they're subscribed for 2 months to watch all 8 episodes. That's very important to think about too. So Netflix, very important for where we are culturally in terms of the streaming service. They release a lot of bad content because they're trying to get new people interested. They release all their stuff at once to binge, and it's kind of annoying that way. That's just me. I don't really know anything else about it. So normally when I do my GeekWave, I always like to do a recommendation at the end for stuff to watch. I think as we go through each streaming service, I'm going to give you a couple recommendations for each one. So that's kind of everything I wanted to say on Netflix. We'll definitely come back to it here and there when we talk about other stuff, but my recommendations for you if you want to watch something on Netflix, I have 2 recommendations for you. First off, watch Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, a criminally underrated show that deserved more hype and more respect that it never really got. It's absolutely perfect. And go watch The Kaminsky Method. It's one of the few things I'm really enjoying on that program and on Netflix. It's so fun, so culturally relevant. It's great to see Michael Douglas in his element, just having fun. Those are things I think you should watch. And as you ponder those for a minute, let's switch over to the realm of what I'm going to say is the second highest one. That is Prime Video. Now, Prime Video, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I enjoy it a lot more. One of the things I'm going to talk about is this idea that because it's owned by Amazon, you have this ability to kind of be more selective in your releases. So none of these programs, none of these services have as much content as Netflix. They just don't, because these are companies that are kind of owned by bigger things, and you'll learn that a bit more here, that yeah, if we don't want to release something, we don't have to release something. We don't have to work to fit this like weird agenda and have our quota filled. We don't have to do that. We can release what we want. We can be selective of our projects. We can make really good stuff. And overall, I think Amazon is a very good service. I think it's the hardest to manage in terms of the layout of the actual app kind of, or just like the website. It flows the least satisfying when you scroll through it or do different stuff with it. I think it just doesn't have the same tone or feel as it, but it also has a lot of really good content. And sure, some of the content isn't as extreme as some of the stuff we've seen on Netflix, but a lot of the content on Amazon Prime, it gives you access to a lot of great stuff. I'll say right now, The Boys is very revolutionary, very ahead of its time. Jack Ryan has a big audience that people like. There are things like Man in the High Castle and Mozart in the Jungle, which are very underrated, criminally underrated in my opinion. But the one thing, this is something I'm going to make very, very apparent to all of you. The one thing that puts Prime Video over the edge to me. Now, I like it more than Netflix anyways, but this is one of the driving factors that puts it over the edge of Netflix for me, is Amazon has the Marvellous Mrs. Maisel, which is the best program ever made that is not a situational comedy. Okay, I've said it, my 3 favorite programs of all time on television: Seinfeld, The Simpsons, and then it's the Marvellous Mrs. Maisel, which is just a complete and utter masterpiece, right down to the casting, the lighting, the costumes. Everything about it is absolutely breathtaking and amazing, and is so perfect in its execution and its delivery. Everything about that works so well. I really like that aspect a lot. You know what else I like about Prime Video? I can pay for it with my Prime. That makes me very excited. I pay for Prime. I've always loved using Amazon Prime. Well, without getting too much into the politics of the people that work at Amazon, which I don't really want to touch on. I like Amazon Prime. I like the idea that I can get something I need desperately shipped to me very soon. That is very important to me. If there's something I feel like, I need to do this comic book for a video, I can find the comic book there, have it come to me. I like that. I like that it's only $80 a year. I'm in Canada. That is what I pay. It's only $80 a year. And because of that, I get a free music app, which is pretty fucking dope if you ask me. I also get free access to Prime Video, which gives me access to a wide variety of programming and different types of stuff. And like I said, because it's Amazon, they don't have to be as selective of what they do. They're just okay, we want to make this weird little piece. We'll release it. We want to make a weird Owen Wilson movie. We'll release it. That to me is very important and very cool to see. I enjoy that aspect. And I think we're just going to be seeing more and more coming from Amazon down the line. Look at Invincible's coming out this year. They're going to be doing their big Lord of the Rings thing. That's cool to see. That's very cool to see. And I am very excited to say that Prime, it looks like it's going to be going in a really bright future. I just like it, man. I think it's pretty cool. They got some really interesting content. I don't think, like I said, it's not the smoothest layout, but I think it's still really powerful and really cool, and something I enjoy talking about and looking at. So that's why Prime Video is one I enjoy. I think a lot of people will sleep on this one, but I'll tell you, I'll give you a couple recommendations. Obviously, The Marvellous Mrs. Maisel is going to change your life like it changed mine. It's brilliant, brilliant filmmaking, absolutely breathtaking, and they got some really great Prime original movies on there. You know, things like The Big Sick, I think, is a really, really good movie. Criminally underrated. That's something you'll find out a lot about Amazon, just in terms of their video quality and the films and the television they release. It is very underrated in terms of some of the other stuff we see, especially in terms of Netflix. But look, Netflix has Emily in Paris. Prime Video has The Marvellous Mrs. Maisel. Which one's going to be better? I think it's pretty obvious. So what is the other one? There's another one here that I was like, okay, I need to talk about this one because currently, as it stands, this is probably my favorite streaming service as it stands. Now, that can change at any moment. I will say this is the only streaming service to come out where I haven't been disappointed in any of the content on it. And that, of course, is Apple TV. Apple TV, much like everything else we're going to be talking about, is from a billion-dollar company that can be very selective on what it releases. But here's the thing I love about Apple TV. It is only $6 a month as compared to like the $8 from Amazon and like the $12 from Netflix. $6 a month for half the content of a Netflix, but infinitely more satisfying, makes me very happy. I like that I can watch it on my phone. I like that I can scroll through things while I'm doing it. That's something I think is very underrated in terms of release quality. So far, I mean, I don't have every app on my phone, obviously, but on my cell phone, I can scroll up on my Apple iPhone, and I can have the video playing on the screen next to me. I can move the small screen, and I can like text on my phone. I can call somebody. Well, not call somebody, but I can like scroll through Twitter and stuff while the movie is still playing on my phone. I think that is a really great, innovative feature that works really well because it's an Apple product. That makes me very happy and immensely proud of the programs that they have. Also, Apple TV is home to Ted Lasso, which is the best program, right next to The Marvellous Mrs. Maisel. But this one's still kind of its infantry. I think it came out 2 years ago, Apple TV. And it's my favorite for a few reasons. Like I said, the price is great. I can use other apps on my phone while I'm watching stuff on there. I think every piece of content that I've seen on there has been very satisfactory. It's not all mind-blowing, but I think it's very good. I like that you can get it free for a year when you buy a new Apple product. I think that's a really cool idea. That's going to get a lot of people to be like, oh, I guess I can watch that. Then you'll be like, oh my God, this Mythic Quest show is brilliant. Oh my God, this Dickinson show is brilliant. Oh my God, they're redoing Foundation. That's pretty cool. They got a Billie Eilish documentary coming out. That stuff is exciting. That stuff to me is going to get you to go, this is really creative and interesting. Apple TV, I didn't expect it to be the one I'm liking, but the morning show is absolutely brilliant. For All Mankind is absolutely brilliant. There's just so much programming on this app that just makes me go, I'm willing to pay $6 for this. I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. $6 is a great price for very selective stuff. And they also, just like Amazon, they release weekly, which made me really happy. They just started doing it recently with Dickinson, but I'm just like, this is exactly what I need. I can watch Dickinson every Thursday night. That makes me happy. I can go back on my day. I can watch the Snoopy show, put it on, maybe just to have a little laugh. It's a very enjoyable app and a very enjoyable streaming service. It's currently my favorite until I get more, maybe until more programming comes out on any other platform. Maybe I'll be like, I don't need this. But so far, everything I've watched on Apple TV, I have not been disappointed. Everything I've watched made me go, this is great, this is great, this is great. I think it's absolutely brilliant what they're doing over there. I think it makes me very happy, makes me very excited. Apple TV is my favorite streaming service at the moment, and I think a lot of people are going to give it a hard time just because, oh, look, Apple has to get it on the streaming stuff too. But, of course they do. It's just free money to them. They're like $1 trillion company. Of course they're like, we can make an app for $6. You can either get it free or for $6, we're going to make some fucking quality and you're going to shut up and watch it. We got Jennifer Aniston. We got Steve Carell. We got Rob McElhenney. We got Haley Steinfeld. We got Jason Sudeikis. Y'all can suck our dick. We are making quality programming at a very affordable price. That is the part I love. It's a very affordable price. It all adds up. And this one so far to me, in terms of the things I can buy in Canada, has been the cheapest. That makes me very happy. It makes me smile even. I very much enjoy that. So that's really cool. And some recommendations for stuff on Apple. Watch all of it. It's all great. The Snoopy Show just came out. I thought that was very enjoyable. Ted Lasso will change your life. It'll make you smile the whole day through. Dickinson is, again, criminally underrated as compared to some of these other shows. They're all great. Check them out. So, where should we go to next? Let's venture to the world of Peacock. NBC has one. They did it so they could own The Office, is pretty much what I think. Peacock is the weakest, in my opinion, just because it's the one I look at where I'm like, you didn't need to do this, you dick. It's Peacock. Who gives a shit? I don't have it here in Canada, so I don't have to pay for this one. But I'm just like, I get it. NBC, you'll make your own programming. Brave New World was fine. Everything else you've done, I don't even know. Are they the ones doing Saved by the Bell? That's stupid. So Peacock, love it or hate it, it exists, and we have to spend time with it in that regard. So let's jump to HBO Max for a minute, just because this one to me is in the vein of something like Prime Video and Disney Plus, where it's like, we're Warner Brothers, we have HBO, we have all these programmings, we are going to keep here and do some cool stuff with it. Now I'm going to run down some of the things I really like about HBO Max, just because there's a few things I'm very impressed by it. First off, the team up with Turner Classic Movies is very important to me. I think that's a great get. You can watch old movies on there. That's really cool. The team up with Crunchyroll to have anime on there, that's very impressive. The 50-year back catalog of Sesame Street is really cool. That makes me really happy. That's the kind of stuff I look at a streaming service and go, you're doing it right. You're making me very happy. You're doing something very cool and interesting there. I enjoy that aspect of HBO Max. Makes me go, oh yeah, I get it. Like you're crushing it. You understand what you're doing. And of course they got, all of Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, and DC Comics, of course. But they're also doing something where they're releasing their new releases from Warner Brothers directly onto the app for no additional cost. If you have the app, you can watch these movies instead of going out to the theater, which I know there are some people who think that sucks, but I'll tell you guys right now, I really like that idea. I think that's the future. This is going to be the direction we're going no matter what you think or what happens in the world. We are going to be going down the rabbit hole of eventually seeing every new release in your home. I like this as a testing ground. HBO Max, out of any of these, they are taking the most chances and doing something completely original and creative, and I am a huge supporter of that component. Take a big swing. If it misses, at least you took the swing. That's more impressive than releasing the same dull content week after week like Netflix. That is amazing to me. HBO Max, to me, is the most revolutionary. If only they could get it overseas and in Canada and stream it in other places. But you know what? I can't complain because we do get the original programming does come to Canada through other forms. I just would like to have their back catalog available to me where I can just sit down and watch some of the stuff that they have on repeat. And I have HBO, so it's not a big deal, but I just wish I could have like the other access to stuff in there. That would make me really excited. HBO Max is, again, I keep saying criminally underrated in terms of all of these, but I really think they are. People look at Netflix as like this godsend, but I'm like, who's taking more swings? Apple, Amazon, Warner Brothers. They're all taking some pretty big swings. They got their dicks out and they're swinging them around like a bat, dude. That is pretty impressive to me. So HBO Max, congratulations. You get the seal of approval. You're right next to Prime for my second favorite one. My favorite one is still Apple TV. So let's take a leap over the pond. I say pond, like what does that matter? And let's look at CBS All Access, which I do believe is becoming Paramount Plus. Another one kind of like Peacock where I'm like, you don't deserve to exist. You can't tease me with this idea of a new Picard show. Are they the ones that did Picard? See, I can't even think of any original programming on CBS All Access. All I know is, shut up. You're not special. You might be special later, but you're still kind of young. You still haven't really found your footing, and I can't be impressed with you or disappointed in you just yet. So congratulations for just existing there. You're kind of You're kind of a part of this. You're like Peacock. Shut up. That's pretty much what I'm going to say. Peacock, CBS All Access, Paramount Plus, just shut up. Nobody wants you. You're not special. So I do want to take a moment before we jump into our last two, which are kind of connected into one. And I would just like to just give a brief shout out to Quibi for being the little engine that really fucking tried. Like, oh man, what a bold move that went absolutely nowhere. Congratulations to Quibi for being the shortest streaming service of all time and being the first one to officially be dead. That makes me very happy. You just proven that this can break and fall apart. So every other studio, you should be aware of the consequences of becoming a Quibi. So let's end things on a two-parter here. And I'm going to put these two together just because you can get these two in the same bundle. And this is kind of what I'm excited about in terms of Star coming to Disney+. Like I said, this is Disney Plus and Hulu. I wanted to save this one for last because, much like Netflix, I think this is the one that a lot of young people are going to turn to as the next best thing in streaming. First off, they bought all of Fox, so you can watch all of Fox coming to Star very soon. But also, original Star Wars and Marvel content is a big selling point for a lot of people. You want to get those numbers up? That's a way to do it. I'm very impressed with that logic. Does that mean I think it's going to sustain itself? Maybe. I think much like Netflix, it might get really big, but then get nobody new subscribing to it, which could then become a problem where it's like, yeah, we're not making our return on this. But unlike Netflix, Disney has other fallbacks. They have amusement parks that rake in millions of dollars once the pandemic fixes things again. They have like cruise ships that make money. They have everything that makes money. Things you can't do now during a pandemic. So right now their money's kind of relying on stuff like this. But I think it's still a good app. I think it's smooth. You can like navigate it very easily. You have a lot of interesting back catalog of Disney stuff. I think that's very impressive. I kind of like where it's going in terms of the Star Wars and Marvel stuff. I was just saying like, oh, is that going to sustain itself? Maybe. I think it's not going to lose as much money as Netflix might, making some new content, which is kind of impressive to say. And Disney is just this really nice, well-rounded streaming service. It has everything you want. To me, the biggest selling point of a Disney Plus. This is the biggest selling point of a Disney Plus to me, and it's something that excites me. First off, you have all 30 seasons of The Simpsons. That is the only impressive thing about the app to me. You can be like, yeah, man, we're making all these WandaVisions and Lokis and The Mandalorians. Of course you are. Those make you billions of dollars. If you can just watch it on your home, that's impressive. That excites me. I get it. That's great. But you're like, here's every episode of The Simpsons, and we're getting Family Guy and American Dad and Futurama very soon. You're like, okay, somebody's going a little too hard. But they're also getting every season of The Muppet Show, which is pretty bloody cool. That's pretty sick, man. They also have all the dinosaurs, which is another program I absolutely adore. That's pretty impressive. I gotta commend you for that. That's pretty dope. There's just a lot of that stuff where I'm just like, this is brilliant. You've proven to me you know what you're doing, and I like it a lot. Disney, I think you're on the fast track to become a Netflix level thing. Probably more so than any other studio. Does that mean your content's going to be as strong? Well, it's definitely going to be stronger than Netflix. I'm still not convinced it's going to be as good as Apple. Not everything on Disney Plus has satisfied me, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But congrats. You have all proven you can be sustainable and interesting stuff. So that's pretty impressive. Now, I'm looking at my list here, and I'm just saying, we're pretty lucky. We are pretty lucky. We got so many diverse ideas that can be represented on places here. You know, every one of these streaming services seems like they could be a good home and a good fit for more diverse and intriguing storytelling, still giving us some of the action blockbuster stuff that a lot of the audience, that the main audience likes. A lot of them are kid-friendly, which I really enjoy. I'm just really impressed with everything we've seen from all of these places. This is the future. I'm telling you right now. Streaming is the future. This is where we're going to be seeing all of our main content. You should get used to it now and just enjoy it for what it is. I think we're in the golden age of television. Has it been better programming? Maybe not, but if you want to get your program made, it's now easier than ever to do so, and sometimes it might actually be successful, which is kind of exciting. I like it a lot. I love television. I'm a huge supporter of serialized storytelling. I think it gives you a lot of great stuff to play with, have fun with, and just looking at streaming, man, it makes me very happy. all of these streaming services, they have their merits. They have things that I think are good, have things that I think are bad. Some of them are easier to navigate. Some of them are harder to navigate. Some of them have worse storytelling opportunities. Some of them are very selective on the programs they do make. But overall, they are all making billions of dollars, which is pretty impressive to say for the entertainment industry. I like that a lot. So let's look at this list again, and let's rank my personal favorite streaming services from worst to best. I'm going to say my least favorite is CBS All Access, just because shut up. Then it's going to be Peacock, just because shut up, but Saved by the Bell, though. Then I'm going to say it's Netflix. Yeah, that's hard to say. Then I'm going to say it's Disney and Hulu. And I'm going to clump Hulu in there just because they got exclusive stuff with FX. And I think, Moon Knight and She-Hulk are coming very soon. And those are two of my favorite characters in all of comics, which is very exciting to see. Next, I'm going to say it's HBO Max. I think what they're doing is very inventive, creative. It's taking bold swings, and I like this idea of taking a bold swing, even if it doesn't land. At least you're trying for something very impressive, so I have to commend HBO Max for that. And in second place, I'm going to put Prime Video. I got access to Amazon Prime, but also Marvellous Mrs. Maisel, The Boys, The Man in the High Castle, American Gods is even on there for love it or hate it. It's on there. The quality in the programming shows, and I would rather watch some of those shows than repeat anything on Netflix or other programs. So it's number 2. And my number 1, bang for your buck, is going to be Apple TV. I just think this one very new, very recent, but the programs have been very satisfying. The watch features have been very engaging. Everything about this one made me go, I like it. I want more of this. I want more seasons of every one of your programs, and it feels like that's what we're getting because a lot of these new series have been picked up for 2 more seasons, and I think that is very cool and very satisfying. And it's just nicer to go like, at least I'll have 3 seasons of Dickinson and potentially more when any other thing like Outer Banks could be canceled on Netflix for like any second. I think that's way more satisfying than just waiting for something like that to happen. So I like that a lot. Those are the streaming services, guys. Thank you for listening to this audio clip on podcast, wherever you're listening to it, maybe even on Amazon now. This podcast is now available on Amazon Music. If you want to listen to us there, please do so. You can also find us on iTunes and Spotify, all these great places, and even Google. Oh yeah. I forgot, didn't YouTube have a streaming service like YouTube Red or something? Because Cobra Kai was there, then it went to Netflix. Weird. Very weird. Oh well. Streaming is fun. Streaming is the future. Apple TV is the best one for your buck, if you want my honest opinion. And you don't have to get any of them, but if you do, get Apple TV. It might be the one that's worth it to you. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And like I said, if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, why don't you go over and give us a recommendation or a rating over there? That'd be really nice. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.